The first warning did not come from a weapon or a battle. It came from silence. For decades, Earth had listened to space. Satellites watched stars, stations listened for signals, and deep sensors searched for changes in gravity and light. Most days were quiet. Space was wide and empty, and humans had learned patience. On this day, the silence felt wrong. Park J was on duty at the Orbital Monitoring Center above the Pacific. When the alerts began to stack on his screen, no alarms screamed, no lights flashed red. Instead, the data simply stopped behaving like it should. Stars dimmed in perfect lines. Radio noise vanished in large areas, as if something massive was blocking the sky. Park J leaned forward, his fingers moving faster as he checked the numbers again. He did not shout. He did not panic. He only felt a slow pressure in his chest, the kind that came before storms. He called over to Kim Soo, who was reviewing cargo traffic nearby. "Look at this," Park J said. Kim Soo studied the screen. He frowned, then zoomed out. "That's not natural," Kim Soo said quietly. "No," Park J agreed. "It's organized." Within minutes, similar reports came from stations around Earth. Whatever was approaching was large, silent, and precise. The world governments were notified, then the Global Council, then emergency teams. The message spread fast, but it spread calmly. Humanity had faced disasters before. Panic had never helped far beyond Earth's orbit. The Car Dominion fleet moved like a living storm. Thousands of ships, each shaped by evolution and war, glided through space without wasted motion. Their hulls were thick and dark, grown rather than built. Hardened through generations of combat, Commander Rokoth stood within the command core of the lead vessel. His body was tall and broad, layered with natural armor plates that overlapped like stone. His four eyes watched the holographic projection of Earth. "Target confirmed," said one of his officers. Rokoth did not respond at once. He studied the planet, blue, green, and fragile, a world that had known peace too long. "Our species was born in fire," Rokoth said at last. Theirs was not. The car had evolved on a world where survival meant constant war. Predators fought predators. Storms destroyed cities. Weakness meant extinction. Over time, only those built for combat survived. Strength, aggression, and obedience were not choices. They were instincts to the car. War was not tragedy. It was nature. Earth was a test, back on the planet's surface. Lee Hanna stood in a crowded lecture hall beneath Seoul. She was a biologist. It's not a soldier, but today her work mattered more than weapons. Scientists, leaders, and translators filled the room. Screens showed the same images, unknown ships forming lines beyond the moon. Lee Hanna spoke clearly, choosing simple words. "They did not build themselves for peace," she said. "They were shaped by endless war. Their bodies, their minds, their culture, everything." A council member asked, "And us?" Lee Hanna paused. "We were shaped by survival." She explained how humans evolved through cold, hunger, disease, and disasters. How cooperation mattered more than strength. How caring for the weak allowed knowledge to pass forward. How tools replaced claws. "We were never the strongest," she said, "but we learned." Above Earth, the first car ships crossed the defensive line. Human fleets waited, smaller and fewer. Built of metal and code instead of bone and instinct. Captain Yoon Dae stood on the bridge of a human frigate. He watched the alien fleet approach and felt the weight of command. "Hold position," he ordered. The car attacked without warning. Energy tore through space. Human shields flared and failed. Several ships were lost in the first minutes. The car weapons were powerful, fast, and direct. They did not aim to scare or disable. They aimed to kill. Yoon Dae ordered a retreat to the car. This was victory. Rokoth watched human ships fall back toward Earth. "They flee," he said. As expected, but something felt wrong. On the ground, cities did not collapse into chaos. Trains kept running. Shelters opened. Emergency networks activated smoothly. People moved with quiet purpose. Children were guided underground. Hospitals prepare. Kong Mira coordinated civilian response from a control center filled with screens and tired faces. She had trained for earthquakes and storms, not invasion. The skills were the same. Food routes secure, someone reported. Shelters at 70% capacity, another said. Mira nodded. Adjust. Share. No one gets left out. Above them, alien dropships descended. The first ground battle was short and brutal. Car soldiers hit the surface with overwhelming force. Their bodies shrugged off small arms fire. Their movements were fast and ruthless. Human defenders fell back again. To the car, humans looked weak. Soft skin, small frames. Fear in their eyes, Rokoth observed through battle feeds. They are prey, he said. Yet the humans did not break. They fell back into streets designed to slow tanks. Buildings collapsed in controlled ways. Traps triggered. Car units advanced and found themselves cut off, surrounded, and targeted from every direction. Losses mounted. Not heavy, but unexpected. Rokoth's officer spoke carefully. They are adapting. Rokoth narrowed his eyes. All species adapt, yes, the officer said. But not this fast. As night fell over the battlefield, fires burned and smoke rose. Human medics moved through rubble, pulling the wounded to safety. They treated soldiers and civilians alike. They did not leave the injured behind. Captured car watched from containment. Fields as humans worked, they did not understand it. On a hill overlooking the city, Park Jae stood beside Kim Soo, watching the sky glow. We're losing ground, Kim Soo said. Yes, Park Jae replied. But not ourselves. Above them, the alien fleet remained, dark and patient. Rokoth looked at Earth again. He had expected screams, collapse, surrender. Instead, he saw movement, planning, and resilience. Strange species, he muttered. The war had begun, and the aliens, evolved only for war, did not yet understand what it meant to face a species that had evolved despite it. The second phase of the invasion did not begin with another attack. It began with study. Commander Rokoth ordered his fleet to hold position above Earth's atmosphere. His warriors did not understand the delay. To them, war meant constant pressure. Attack, crush, advance. That was how their species had survived for thousands of generations. But Rokoth had seen something during the first battles. The humans had retreated, yes. They had lost ships, soldiers, and ground. But they had not lost order. Their cities still functioned. Their communications did not collapse. Even under fire, they had protected their wounded and their young. That behavior did not match prey. Rokoth stood before the tactical display, watching recordings of human movement. He noticed patterns. When humans lost, they did not scatter. They pulled back together. When something failed, they replaced it quickly. When faced with fear, they did not freeze. They focused. This species does not fight like warriors, Rokoth said. One of his officers replied. They fight like survivors. Rokoth said nothing, but the words stayed with him. On Earth, the days blurred into long cycles of work and exhaustion. The sky was no longer normal. Alien ships were visible even during daylight, dark shapes hanging like scars above the clouds. Lihana moved between research centers, shelters, and military briefings. She slept little. Her job was not to design weapons, but to understand the enemy and explain humans to themselves. In one underground room, she stood before soldiers and engineers. They evolved for war, she said again, repeating the truth until it settled. They do not know peace. They do not understand recovery, the young officer asked. Then how do we win? Hannah answered simply. By being human. That meant adapting. Human forces stopped trying to match the car in open combat. Instead, they shifted tactics daily. Drones changed patterns. Weapons were modified overnight. Software was rewritten after every engagement. Choi Min worked inside a converted factory, surrounded by spare parts and half-built machines. He was an engineer, but now his work touched war directly. He studied captured car equipment, careful and patient. They grow their ships, he said to his team. But growth is slow. Design is not. Within weeks, human weapons began to behave differently. They did not hit harder, but they hit smarter. Car armor adapted slowly to new frequencies. Human weapons changed frequencies constantly. In the streets, Kongmira continued to organize civilian life. Food was shared. Power was rerouted. Schools moved underground. Children studied history and math while distant explosions shook the walls. Parents told stories at night. Not of fear, but of endurance. The car watched all of this. Rokath sent more ground forces, expecting humans to be exhausted. Instead, resistance was sharper. Human units appeared where they were not expected. Old weapons were combined with new ideas. Civilian tools became military assets. The car won battles, but they began to lose time. Car. Soldiers were bred and trained for one purpose: fight until death. They did not rotate. They did not rest. Pain was ignored until the body failed. Humans did the opposite. Human soldiers were pulled back, treated, rested, and sent again. Injuries that would have killed car warriors were healed. Trauma was addressed, not punished. Captured car soldiers were confused when humans treated their wounds. "Why do you preserve the broken?" one demanded. A human medic replied, "Because they are still useful. And because they are people," the concept made no sense to the car. Rokoth began to receive reports of declining morale. Not fear, but confusion. His warriors did not understand an enemy that refused to collapse. "They should be extinct by now," one officer said. Rokath answered, "They should be, but they are not." Park Jae and Kim Soo worked together now in a mobile command unit closer to the front. Their job was to predict alien movement. It was becoming easier. "They don't change," Kim Soo said. Watching the data, Park Jae nodded. "They can't. It's not in them." Human planners exploited that weakness. They fed false retreats. They left paths open that led into controlled zones. They used silence and noise at the right moments. Every loss taught humans something. Every loss taught the car nothing. In one captured city sector, Rokath personally descended to observe humans. He wore heavy armor and moved with natural authority. His presence silenced his warriors. He expected screams. Instead, he found quiet. Humans huddled in shelters. Some stared at him with fear. Others with anger. A few with tired curiosity. A child looked up at him and asked something softly. The translator struggled, then spoke. "She asks if the sky will be safe." Again, Rokoth did not answer. He returned. To his ship unsettled, Lee. Hannah later learned of that encounter through intercepted signals. "They are beginning to see us," she said. "Not as prey. As a problem." The war spread across continents, but Earth did not fall apart. Damage was heavy, losses painful, but systems held. The car dominion began to show strain. Supply lines grew longer. Warriors died faster than they could be replaced. Their bodies were strong, but their culture was brittle. They had never planned for a war that lasted. Rokath reviewed the data late into the cycle. For the first time in his long life, doubt entered his thoughts. His species had evolved for war. Humans had evolved through it, and slowly, steadily, that difference was beginning to matter. Time became the most dangerous weapon in the war. Weeks passed, then months. The sky remained crowded with alien ships, and the ground remained scarred by battle. But something important changed. The war no longer moved in clear lines. It spread like water, finding cracks, shifting shape, never staying still. Humans learned faster than the car expected. Commander Rokath noticed it first in the reports. Every battle followed a different pattern. Human units no longer reacted the same way twice. Traps changed. Signals changed. Even the timing of attacks shifted without warning. "This is inefficient," one of his officers said. "They waste effort." Rokoth disagreed. "They are learning," he said. "Learning costs energy, but it creates strength." The car did not learn that way. Their knowledge was carried in their bodies, shaped by evolution. What worked before was what they trusted now. Their weapons were powerful, but their thinking was fixed. On Earth, learning became constant. Choi Min barely left the underground facility anymore. His beard grew uneven. His hands were always stained with oil or dust. Around him, screens showed broken alien devices, human tools, and strange hybrids of both. "They grow their machines," he said one night to Park Jae, who had come to deliver new data. "But they don't change them once they're grown." Park Jae nodded. "Humans change everything." Choi Min smiled weakly. "Even things that already work." Captured alien weapons were no longer just studied. They were rebuilt. Humans stripped them down, removed parts they did not understand, and replaced them with systems they did. The result was not elegant, but it worked. Human weapons began to surprise car soldiers. Not because they were stronger, but because they behaved strangely. Shots curved. Signals vanished. Machines shut down without visible damage. The car adapted slowly, too slowly. On the battlefield, Hyundai led a mixed unit of soldiers, drones, and autonomous vehicles. None of it matched standard military doctrine. "That was the point. Move," he ordered calmly. They advanced through ruined streets where car patrols had grown comfortable. Sensors misread human movement. Drones mimicked heat signatures. The enemy fired at shadows. When the attack came, it came from 3 directions at once. The car fought fiercely, as they always did. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. They pushed forward until their bodies failed. After the fight, Hyundai watched medics move in. "Count the wounded," he said. "Low," someone replied. "Good," Hyundai said. "That means we learned." In a distant medical center, Lee Hannah worked with doctors and psychologists. She studied both humans and captured car. The differences were painful and clear. Car bodies healed fast. But their minds did not bend. When wounded warriors could no longer fight, they shut down emotionally. Some refused treatment. Others grew violent. They were never meant to stop, Lee Hannah said quietly. Humans, however, showed a different pattern. Fear, grief, anger, exhaustion all were present. But humans processed them. They talked. They rested. They adapted. "Pain teaches us," Lee Hannah said. "It doesn't define us." Kong Mira saw this truth every day. Civilian life continued underground and in protected zones. Markets reopened in tunnels. Art appeared on shelter walls. Music played quietly at night. People mourned their dead. Then they kept going. Children asked questions about the aliens. Teachers answered honestly. "They are strong," one teacher said. But strength alone does not decide everything. Carr watched these behaviors through captured footage, and sensors. Rokoth studied them in silence. His own warriors did not sing. They did not tell stories. They did not teach children. Their young were trained, not raised. For the first time, Rokoth wondered if something had been lost in his species. Long path of survival. The war began to turn in small ways. Human forces stopped trying to defend everything. They chose what to protect and what to abandon. When the car advanced into empty zones, they found nothing of value. When they tried to hold territory, humans cut supply lines. Car ships were powerful, but they needed constant resources. Human resistance focused on delay and disruption, a car officer reported. "Our advance is slowing," Rokoth replied. "Speed is no longer the question." The question was endurance. Humans had prepared for disasters long before the invasion. Floods, storms, earthquakes, pandemics. Systems existed to adapt when plans failed. The car had prepared only for victory. As months passed, signs of strain appeared across the Dominion fleet. Warriors showed reduced effectiveness. Replacement cycles could not keep up with losses. Command units grew tense. One officer spoke openly. "Commander, this war is wrong. They do not break." Rokoth did not punish him. "I know," Rokoth said. In one rare engagement, the car unit was surrounded and disabled rather than destroyed. Humans used precision strikes and signal suppression. When the smoke cleared, car warriors lay wounded but alive. They expected execution. Instead, humans approached carefully, weapons lowered. A translator spoke. "You are no longer fighting. You will receive care." The car warriors did not understand. Later, one of them asked Lihanna a question. "Why do you keep us alive?" She answered simply, "Because war does not need more death than it already has." The concept disturbed them more than pain. Rokoth reviewed the incident repeatedly. "They could have killed us," one officer said. "Yes," Rokoth replied. "And they chose not to." That choice haunted him. On Earth, Park Jae noticed a shift in orbital movement. "They're pulling back slightly," said to Kim Soo. Kim Soo checked the data. "Not retreating, rethinking." "Or hesitating," Park Jae said. Hesitation was something the car had never evolved to handle. The humans felt it. Confidence grew. It's careful but real. Not the belief that they would win easily, but the belief that survival was possible. Yoondae spoke to his unit after a successful operation. "We're still bleeding," he said. "But they are too. The difference is, we know how to heal." The war continued. But its nature had changed. It was no longer a simple invasion. It was a test of which kind of evolution truly lasted. Rokath stood alone in the command core. Staring at Earth, his species had evolved for war. Humans had evolved for everything else. And now, those paths were colliding. The war entered a quiet and dangerous phase. There were fewer large battles now. Instead, there were pauses. Long hours where nothing seemed to happen, followed by sudden violence that vanished just as quickly. The skies were still full of alien ships, but they moved less. On the ground, car forces advanced carefully, no longer charging forward without thought. Humans noticed the change. Park Jae studied orbital maps late into the night. The alien fleet had shifted its formation again, spreading wider, holding distance. "They're afraid of being predictable," he said to Kim Soo. Kim Soo nodded. "That means we taught them something. Teaching the enemy was never comfortable. It was better than being crushed by them." Commander Rokath felt the pressure building within his command. His warriors still fought with perfect discipline, but their certainty was gone. They asked questions now. Not openly, but through hesitation, through delayed responses, through looks that lingered too long undamaged. Ships and wounded comrades. Carr had no word for exhaustion of the spirit. Rokoth felt it anyway. He watched reports of human activity that made no sense to a species. Evolved for endless war. Humans rebuilt damaged zones instead of abandoning them completely. They planted food and protected areas even while fighting continued. They repaired communication lines that were not strictly military. Why do they waste effort on comfort? An officer asked. Rokath answered slowly, "Because comfort is strength to them." On Earth, Kong Mira oversaw the reopening of a surface district that had been abandoned months earlier. Buildings were damaged, streets cracked, but people returned carefully. "Only during daylight," she instructed. "Shelters stay ready." Children walked outside for the first time in weeks, holding hands. Staring at the sky with mixed fear and wonder, life returned in small pieces. Lihanna visited a field hospital near the front. She spoke with doctors, nurses, and soldiers recovering from injuries. "We are tired," one soldier admitted. "But we know why we are here." That answer mattered. The car did not know why they were still fighting. Their original goal had been conquest and classification. Earth was supposed to fall quickly, serving as proof of car dominance. Instead, it had become a long, painful struggle that drained resources and confidence. Rokath received a message from the Dominion Council. It was briefed to end the conflict. "Results are unacceptable." Rokath stared at the words. End the conflict meant escalation. More force. Less restraint? It also meant risking everything. He ordered a massive ground push in a region. Humans had heavily fortified earlier, then seemingly abandoned. The car expected another trap. Instead, they found civilians. families sheltered in reinforced buildings, medical teams working openly, supply convoys moving food and water. "This is a mistake," an officer said. They left their defenses. Rokoth watched the feeds closely. The humans did not attack. They stood their ground, unarmed, shielding the injured and the young. Rokoth felt something twist inside him. "Hold fire," he ordered. The command stunned his. "Officers, they are exposed," one protested. "They are not attacking," Rokoth replied. "Neither will we." The standoff lasted hours. During that time, human forces did not use the pause to strike. They used it to move civilians farther away, to strengthen shelters, to prepare quietly. Rokoth realized the truth. Too late, the abandoned defenses were not gone. They activated beneath the car advance. Ground systems rose from hidden positions. Signals jammed. Paths collapsed. Car units were cut off without a direct fight. Humans did not destroy them. They surrounded them. Yoon Day led the operation with calm focus. "No unnecessary fire," he ordered. "Disable. Contain." The battle ended with hundreds of car warriors trapped, alive and confused. Rokoth watched the defeat unfold. His hands clenched. "They turned mercy into strategy," he said. For the first time, the Car Dominion lost an entire ground force without being wiped out or victorious. The captured warriors were treated, fed, and held securely. Humans did not celebrate. They worked. Lee Hanna spoke with one of the prisoners through a translator. "You could have killed us all," Carr said. "Yes," she replied. "But then the war would never end." The words echoed across the conflict. News of the capture spread through the Dominion fleet. Warriors whispered. Officers argued. The idea that an enemy could choose? Restraint broke something deep in their shared instincts. Rokoth felt the command slipping from his grasp. His species had evolved to fight until extinction. Either theirs or the enemy's. They had never evolved to stop. Humans had. On Earth, Park J noticed another change. "They're pulling ships back from orbit," he said. Kim Soo checked twice. "That's not a trick. That's withdrawal." It was not a retreat. Not yet, but it was doubt made visible. Kong Myra watched people return to the surface more often. Markets reopened under temporary shields. People talked about the future again, carefully, like touching a fragile object. The war was not over, but it was no longer. Ash sighed. Rokoth stood alone in the command core, staring at the planet that refused to break. His species had been shaped by endless war. Humans had been shaped by survival, recovery, and choice. And now, that difference threatened to end the conflict in a way the car never prepared for. Peace did not arrive all at once. It arrived in pieces. Uneven and fragile, like broken ground, slowly healing after fire. The alien fleet was gone from Earth's orbit, but its shadow remained. Satellites still tracked distant signals. Early warning systems stayed active. No one pretended the galaxy was suddenly safe. Humans had learned, too, much to believe in simple endings. Park J continued his work at the orbital center, though the screens now showed mostly empty space. When something moved far away, his heart still tightened for a moment before logic returned. "Habit," Kim Soo said when he noticed. "Yes," Park J replied. "Survival habit." Below them, Earth rebuilt. Cities did not rise as they once had. Plans changed. Streets widened. Shelters became permanent parts of daily life. Power systems were layered and flexible. No single failure could bring everything down again. Humans adapted peace. The same way they adapted war. Kong, Mira walked through a restored district that had once been a battlefield. Walls were still marked by old damage, left visible on purpose. "Children asked about the scars, so we remember," she told them. "And so we don't panic when things break." Life returned with care, not celebration. Far from Earth, the Cardominians struggled with change. Commander Rokoth had returned as something new. Not a conquering hero, not a failure, but a survivor. who had seen the limits of his species' path. The Dominion Council listened to him with discomfort. "Our warriors are restless," one council member said. "They were shaped for conflict," Rokath answered calmly. "Then we must shape purpose." That idea frightened many of them. For the first time in car history, training cycles were altered. Warriors were taught restraint alongside combat. Builders and planners gained higher status. Healing was no longer seen as weakness. Progress was slow, painfully slow. Some resisted. On Earth, Lihana followed these changes through shared data channels. She knew trust would take years, maybe generations. "They are learning what we learned the hard way," she said during a global address. "That survival is not only about fighting." Human exploration resumed carefully, not with large fleets but with listening posts and unmanned probes. When humans met other species, they did not hide their scars. They showed them. Yunde retired from frontline command, his body worn but his mind clear. He helped train new officers, teaching lessons that were not written in manuals. "Winning is not the goal," he told them. "Enduring is." The galaxy watched. Some civilizations feared humans now. Others respected them. A few reached out. Curious about a species that survived invasion without becoming conquerors, humans answered. Cautiously, Rokath requested one final meeting with human representatives before stepping down from command. The connection opened, clear and steady. "You changed us," Rokath said. Lihana replied. "You forced us to remember who we already were." There was no apology. No forgiveness spoken aloud. Only understanding. Years passed, Earth healed unevenly, but it healed. People lived, loved, argued, and planned futures again. War became history instead of daily reality. Children who had grown up in shelters now walked under open skies. They learned about the invasion not as a story of heroes, but as a story of choices. The Car Dominion did not become peaceful overnight. Conflict still existed, but war was no longer the only answer their evolution allowed. Across the galaxy, a quiet truth spread. Species evolved only for war will fight until nothing. Remains a species that evolves despite. War learns how to stop, and that difference reshaped the future. The galaxy did not forget Earth. After the war ended, silence spread across many star systems. Ships slowed their travel near human space. Long-range probes watched from a distance. No one attacked. No one trusted easily either. Humanity had changed how the galaxy measured danger. On Earth, this was understood. Park J read the reports every morning. New signals. New watchers. Civilizations that had never spoken before now listened carefully. "They are afraid," Kimsu said. "Yes," Park J replied. "But they are also curious." Humans decided not to hide. Instead of weapons displays, they sent records. Footage of cities rebuilding, data about shelters, medicine, and shared systems. They showed how they survived, not how they killed. The message was simple. This is who we are. Some species ignored it. Others answered, the first visitors did not. Arrive in warships. They came in small, unarmed craft, and waited far from Earth. Humans met them the same way they met disasters carefully. Hana helped lead the first open exchange. The meeting took place on a neutral station, not owned by any single species. Translators worked slowly. Every word mattered. "We do not want your territory," one delegate said. "We want to understand how you survived the car," Lihana answered honestly. "We survived because we had no other choice." That answer spread. Across the galaxy, species that had hidden from the car for generations began to talk. They shared stories of lost worlds and broken defenses. Many had evolved to avoid war entirely, only to be crushed when it came. Humans listened. Yunde attended some of these talks as an advisor. He did not wear medals. He spoke quietly. "You don't need to become us," he told them. "You need to know yourselves." That idea changed things. The Car Dominion watched these developments with unease. Rokath, no longer a commander, followed the news closely. His people were still struggling to change. Some accepted new paths. Others resisted, clinging to old instincts. He understood both sides. War had been simple. Peace required effort. Crisis came without warning. A distant system collapsed into chaos when an internal war broke out between two rival species. The fighting spread quickly, threatening trade routes and nearby worlds. Refugees fled in all directions. The Galactic Council froze. They had no force ready that could respond without turning the crisis into a larger war. They looked toward Earth. The request was careful, almost afraid.